Hello, Amber.
Hello, Jen, and everyone tuning in to the Morally Gray Babes podcast. Today, we are deep diving into the wild, emotional, sometimes totally unhinged world of Omegaverse. If you've read one and need therapy after, but in the best way, this episode is for you. As always, 18 plus. If you are younger than 18, please go see your mama, drink some milk, get off this podcast. We love you. It's not time. I will say that a megaverse is something that I introduced Jen to. So
Yes, had no idea it existed before Amber, which is what makes you my best friend because
I
this has been a whole new
corrupted you.
experience. Yeah, and in the best possible way.
I corrupted her so bad. So I feel like I'm one of those friends that your parents are like, should you be friends with her? I'm not sure.
Welcome to Morally Gray Babes. We're your hosts, Jen and Amber, two unapologetic book addicts, diving deep into the steamiest reads, hottest book boyfriends, and those spicy moments that make you blush.
Amber here, and we're not just here to talk plot twists and character arcs. We're breaking down everything from our favorite quotes to the spice levels that really bring the heat.
Expect a lot of laughs, a little cussing, and some seriously hot takes. Whether we're gushing over fictional men or dishing out the truth on what books deserve the hype, nothing is off limits.
So buckle up, Buttercup, and get ready for real, raw, and totally unfiltered book talk. Because we're the book besties you didn't know you needed.
Let me just tell you, we started this reading journey together. We started the podcast around December-ish, right? So we've started this podcast like in December or January, but
Mm-hmm.
we've been reading since the year before
Yes.
in around June or July, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And
And they met in person the
since then,
following year, right?
yes, yes. And the best part, the absolute best part is my husband gets the benefit of these books, folks. So my husband thinks that Amber is the next best things to sliced bread.
You're
He's
welcome.
very happy that we're friends. He has a very, very happy life.
I am so happy for you. I'm so glad.
Grossed
I'm
out.
really embarrassed, but I am happy for you. So I'm happy for our hubsters. Everybody's getting the love. I want to say to the listeners, in case they don't know, is I can go into a dark, no, I wouldn't say dark. Maybe it's like a deep rabbit hole of a certain trope.
Yeah.
And while Jen and I were reading, and that you never know what someone's preference is going to be. Or it's kind of like showing someone your Spotify playlist. It's vulnerable showing them your Kindle and your TBR list. It's really vulnerable. And I remember going down a rabbit hole of Omegaverse and reading every single Omegaverse I could find, like Lola and the Millionaires, Not Your Omega, like all these different types. And I remember reading something and going to Jen, and I was like, Jen, maybe we can try this. It's in the Metaverse. And you're like, I don't know what that is. And I explained to you.
Let's read it.
Yeah. And she's like, I'm down for anything. Don't tell me that. And so
I think after that, I read about an orc and an alien. So,
yeah, we're
hey, I
good.
really
I had
truly
to
am
break the
open.
seal. I had to give you everything. So the reason I'm saying is this: Jen does not appreciate me rereading books. And so,
No, I don't think it's fair.
but when we started, she's like, I need more of this. I forgot the one that we read together
Yeah,
initially
I
that
don't
got
remember the first one.
you were sending me. And I was like, when I say I went down a rabbit hole, I've read almost all the Omegaverses I could find. Thankfully, authors are pumping out new Omegaverses every month. So we were able to catch up. But I want people to realize we went down a rabbit hole of Omegaverses. And I'm very happy that you love them. And now we get to talk about them.
Love them. Yeah, so let's go ahead and jump in and let's really start with the basics. So, for anyone who's Omegaverse curious or sitting there like, what the heck is that? Hopefully, we've gotten you excited for it.
Yes. So a megaverse, it can also be known as ABO, which stands for alpha, betas, and omegas. It originally came out as fan fiction, I think, and has fully become its own genre. It takes place in a world, I should say most of them take place in a world
Yeah, most of them.
where society is divided into these dynamics or roles as alphas, betas, and omegas. I will also say this before I let you dive more, Jen, in like the different types, is that there is no shifting involved with Omegaverses. So, I mean, there can be, but majority of the ones that we've read, I would say, well, all the ones we've read so far are not shifters. And what I mean by that is like they are not people who shift into a different life form, animal form, wolves or whatever. They stay human, but they're human with alpha tendencies.
It's not like the fantasy books that many of us have read about, like dragons and wolf shifters and
Yeah,
bear shift, like
exactly.
all the things. So, yeah, no, I'm glad you said that.
Because I feel like whenever I read, like when I first dove into it, I was thinking, I think probably even thought that when I was reading it, it's like, oh, alpha shifters. And no, no baby cakes. There's no shifting. And it most of the time the authors will put in the beginning, kind of like a glossary of what an Omegaverse
Yeah.
is. They will even share like there was one that I read recently that had a great introduction to a megaverse because she like gave definitions of like all these things, what nodding
It
is, what
was
mega
really
is,
good.
scent match, soul match, all these things that I didn't even know. And like you kind of understand, but it was like the definition. Like I felt like I was in spelling class learning the word and the definition. I was like, oh, okay, vocabulary lesson. It was nice. But most of them will tell you that if it's going to have shifters in there, like full shifters with, like Jen said, dragons or werewolves or wolves or lions and bears and tigers. Oh my. But this one is just humans with these tendencies.
All right. So alphas are usually the dominant ones, the protectors, often possessive and protective. They're often the most, at least in the books that I've read, the most good looking, the people are drawn to, I would say.
Yeah.
Betas are your typical humans, kind of the neutral party, if you will. And omegas, they're usually seen as more of the submissive or softer. They're meant to like take care of others, but everyone takes care of them, which always kind of got me confused in the beginning. But don't get it twisted. Some of the most badass heroines that we have read are omegas.
Exactly. I will also say like the alphas tend to be physically, like their physical traits. I know you said handsome, but they also are
Bigger.
like very dominating, like they're bigger, right? So if you think
Mhm.
of like a beta as like the average Joe going to the grocery store that you see, like, the alphas would be like the rugby players that are playing professionally or the NFL players
Football
or
players,
baseball.
body, yeah,
Yeah. I'm not
yeah,
saying that they're going to be NFL players in the books. I'm just saying they have that body type. They're really tall. They're
yeah.
usually six
Like an
foot five plus. They're very muscular,
inverted
very cut,
triangle, all the things.
where the alphas that they're talking about are more grotesque and they kind of let themselves go and they have a pot belly and they're like, ugh, gross, nasty. But for majority, the ones that we have read tend to stay on that very tall, very muscular, very defined type, while the betas or the average Joes. And then the omegas tend to be smaller in
Shorter,
yeah,
smaller, yeah.
very petite in nature, very curvaceous, very hippie, very booby, right? So
Emotional,
a little emotional. And
a
what I
little bit.
love about the Omegaverse for me, and like we'll go into more about this, but about the differences and like the primal urges and stuff. But what I love about Omegaverses, and I don't know about Jen, but I feel like we're on the same page most of the time.
99%.
I absolutely love when they talk about how they smell, and that sounds so bad, and I feel like I should
No,
clarify.
I
No,
agree. That's one of my favorite things.
but when I said it like that, I was like, "Oh my god, somebody can cut this and be like, I like how they smell," and like it sounds so gross.
True. It's your natural perfume,
It's
if you
like your
will.
pheromones, but it's like hovers around you, and then it intensifies in a delicious manner or a more pleasant aroma whenever you are aroused or whenever you're happy and comforted. And then it can actually get sour and burnt and
Acid.
yeah, acid smell whenever you are angry or scared or those kind of feelings. And I love whenever you're reading these about these Omegaverses because betas typically don't have a smell that goes with them, but Omegas have a smell and the alphas have a smell, and it
Yes.
can be scent matched if their smells are like drawn to one another. Like if it just, I guess
Against their will, almost,
it
even.
like tugs at their heartstrings and they can't, it's like this instinct, they can't get away from this person if that smell is drawn to them.
Which is how I feel about my husband. Like, I just want to, he's just yummy smelling. We're scent matched.
My husband, I think, smell like the crook of the neck,
Yes,
right?
right there.
Whenever you hug and you're like in that
Yes.
big bear hug at
Yes.
the end of the day, and I know he's worked hard and we're not gonna say what he does for a living, but I just
No.
love that smell. And I'm just like, oh, you smell like my husband, you
Mm.
smell like my man. Like get it.
Yes.
But most of the
So
time
it's
they're
like
like,
natural pheromones that affect, when it's a scent match, it affects both people and they cannot resist the other
yeah.
person.
And so that I like it because it's like, oh, she has like this very like lemon smell, or he's got like a bourbon and cigar smell, or he's got a coffee
Grass or
caramel, or like he's got a like rain and Mountain Dew, whatever. Like
it's so good.
I love it. So 100%.
Okay, so wait a second. So what would your smells be? I have been dying to ask you this for the years that we've been reading now.
Oh my
Like,
God.
what would your, if for your ideal, like, what would your smell be?
How about you go first? That way I have time to think about it.
Okay,
Because I feel like you
so
already know your answer.
I do, because it's the smells that I love: watermelon, vanilla, and banana, which is a lot, I'm sure, but like that's what my smell
Well,
would
would
be.
that be your smell, or would be the smell that you would attract?
Oh, well, that would be the smell I would love, but I also would love to smell like that.
So I would love to smell like vanilla and coconut.
There you go, like a beach.
Sort of. Yeah. So, well, that's what I wear all the time is vanilla and coconut. And so
I wear vanilla all the time.
as I can't find a good vanilla and coconut perfume. If y'all have one, listeners, please comment below.
Yeah,
Tag
or
me,
even a
find
body
me.
spray. Or even a body spray. It doesn't have to be a cologne or whatever.
So
Yeah.
far, I've turned to making my own, which is just coconut oil with vanilla extract, and I still love it.
Well, there you go.
I know, but if I can
I
make it
should do that too. I want to do that.
Okay,
I
we're on top.
digress. Sorry, peeps. We're gonna have the
So-
recipe below. No, I'm just kidding.
So my smell, that would be my smell. What would you want? Just say some of this scent smells.
So a cologne that I love for my husband is John Paul Gaultier, and it's a chocolate base.
Ooh.
And I just want to eat his skin. Like he's so yummy.
So chocolate.
So it's a chocolate base. Yeah. Which is funny because I'm not like a big chocolate lover. I love like chips. If I was going for something, I'd go savory versus sweet.
Yeah, me.
But on him, that chocolate, it's a silhouette of a man's body. It's
That's
really good.
I will be honest, my husband, my hubster, I never call him husband. That sounded weird. My hubster doesn't wear cologne because
He can't with this job, I'm imagining too.
no, he just in all the years I've known him. So we met when I was 17. And so he has never worn cologne because he can't. It's too, even one spritz, it's too like
Oh.
his scent is already manly. And so when he puts on cologne, it's like pig pen, even one spritz.
Yeah, that's just so, yeah, that's not good.
He can't wear any cologne, which he doesn't need any. It smells so yummy. Like this sounds gross. I'm not gonna say it. I'll say it. But like the smell of his, the smell of like when even after he like works out, I love that
Like
smell.
his sweat smell.
His
Yeah,
his
because
smell is
that's a
amazing.
pheromone situation,
Oh my
right?
god,
Like
so
biologically,
freaking
that's,
delicious.
I'm telling you, that is my husband. He's
Hupster.
like, wait, stop kissing me. I gotta like take a shower. I'm like, no,
My
no.
husband, he knows. He's like, I don't know why you like this smell. I'm like, it smells delicious. But I would probably choose something like, I love the smell of like when it rains, like right before it rains.
Yes.
I love that
And
smell.
I love the smell of linen too. I don't know why. It's just a clean smell. I
So,
love the smell of linen.
I mean, I also have some other smells, but I feel like they wouldn't go well with my vanilla and coconut. So, but I
I
like the
know. Well, I
smell.
just throw them all together and I don't care.
Yeah. So I love that. I love the smell of a burnt match.
Wow. Okay. I love the smell of gasoline. My dad was a race car driver, so I grew up with him racing and wrenching on cars. And I
Mhm.
love the smell of gasoline in cars. Yum.
My dad was a welder, and so I grew up with that
There you
smell
go.
of like
Yes.
diesel and of grease and the
Yes. The
gasoline.
smell
And
is great.
we passed in, like, we had this like old truck. It looked like a welding truck, if you ever know what that means. But it was like in front of us at a red light the other day. And like the kids were like, oh my God, the smell. I was like, oh my God, it's so good. I love it.
So good.
It's
I'm
like,
home.
right. But it smells like my dad. And like, I wouldn't want, if I had a pack, like, I wouldn't want my pack mate to smell like my dad. But I do like that
No,
smell.
but yes, yeah, there's a comforting smell. It smells like home.
Yeah, I mean, I have a perfume that my grandmother wore. She passed away in February last year, and I have her perfume bottle, and it smells just like her, right? And
Oh.
I keep it in my nightstand, and so whenever I miss her, I just smell it, and I'm like, it just takes me back to that person, right? And that memory, same as like gasoline with you with your dad, and diesel with me and my dad, and grease.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to create that for my kids as well, like that. Like I want them whenever they smell something to be like, oh, that smells like mom. So
Oh,
that's
so
why
you,
the kids and I were talking about, like, we weren't talking about Omegaverses, but we were talking about scents. And I was like, oh, I want to have like a certain scent that you can resonate. And like, whenever, if God forbid something happens to me and you're like 60 or 70 years old, you smell it, you're like, oh, that makes me think of mom.
oh, that's
So I was like, coconut
sweet.
vanilla. And the kids were like, yeah, that works. Sorry, we're off topic. So let's get
Yeah,
back to this.
we'll have to
Omegaverse.
probably cut some of this out, but okay,
I
go
think
ahead.
we should leave it. It's great.
All
So
right, we'll leave it.
Omegaverses, like we're talking about, that's one of my favorite things is scent matches and the scents. And I love it whenever the authors will do kind of it's different points of views, the chapters. And whenever you get to one chapter and it's like amber, and then you see like a vanilla bean and a coconut. I like when
Yes, I
they
love when
do
they do that.
the doodles on top of the chapters with the
Yes, I
inside.
love those little graphics on top of the chapters.
Yeah,
I think it's so
100%.
smart.
100%. So Omegaverses can also lean into primal urges and biological instincts. Things like heats and rut scenting, like we talked about, and claiming, like with biting. Okay. But the best Omegaverse books that we've read use those elements to build these deep emotional bonds and gut punch level character development.
Yes, 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 yes. It's really the tension, the found family, the pack dynamics. It can get super emotional, like you're reading about soul crushing pain on one page and cozy cuddling on the
Oh my
next.
gosh, there's so many different flavors of a Megaverse. Some are super dark and gritty. I remember reading one with you recently, Jen, and it was
And
so
we didn't even do a podcast episode on it, right?
we did not yet. I mean, we could, but it was so
Mm.
dark. It was so dark, and there was so much torture, and it was about I don't know if we can say this on podcast. I mean, but it was like,
It's where we have a warning on our podcast, so you can say
okay.
anything you
But it
want.
was like trafficking. This was where
That's
most
yes.
most Omega verses are set up where like there's yin and yang, right? So you have the ones that are kind of super bubbly, rom-commy, like
Those
the
are my
typical, I
favorite.
think like Reese Witherspoon, like movie
Yes.
vibes, right? Like that's what you get. And I mean, I'm not saying that she would ever play this. I'm not saying she has a pack or anything, but that's the rom-commy vibes I get. And then you have the other aspect where it's more dark and it's more unhinged and it's more about like torturing and not seeing the Omega as a gift, but as property. So you have the one where
Yes.
the alphas see it as a gift and it's rom-commy and it's light and it's fun and there's some emotional depth, but it's like all about love on the Omega. And then the other one is where the Omega is to be owned and it's property and it's a lot of emotional growth and death and how alphas save her to show her her worth kind of thing. So there's definitely super
Different
dark and
kinds, for
gritty.
sure.
There's definitely romantic, soft, and fluffy. And we love a balance of spice and soul on this podcast.
So let's just talk, just as an examples, let's talk about a couple of the Omegaverse books that we have covered on the podcast and kind of what makes them stand out for us. As a heads up and or a reminder, especially if this is the first time you're listening to us, we do not do podcast episodes on books that are less than a rating of 3 because it's a waste of your time, it's a waste of our time, and oftentimes we won't even finish it.
True story. True story. So let's talk about Captivate. I think this is by E.J. Lawson. It's in their Not Their Omega series. So this book absolutely delivered on emotional depth. You have Riley. This is kind of on that dark aspect of Omegas, right? So she's an Omega that's living as a beta. So she's trying to hide who she is because she's trying to survive this system that doesn't protect Omegas. So therefore doesn't protect her. And so this is kind of dark, but then it gets into a little bit more lovey-dovey because she meets who she meets.
Well, she meets Miles, and then she meets Fox and Thane and Levi. And this pack is a cinnamon roll central, and we are not mad about it. They're gentle, respectful, and still they're alpha enough to bring the tension and the sexual chemistry that I love.
That's so true. One thing I think we should just put a pin in this for a second and say that most of the books, whenever you're reading about Omegaverse, majority of them are packs. So alpha packs around one Omega. So, and an alpha pack could be, or a pack could be 2 to, I think the most we've seen is 5 alphas. It could be alphas with a few betas in there. It can be a pack of alphas. So like 2 or 3 alphas with a beta, or even with another Omega. We've seen one with 2 Omegas. So, and there's
which
some
is more unusual, but it's possible.
And then there's some where it's like a pack is just an alpha and Omega. So just read the synopsis, the blurbs, and figure out what you're comfortable reading. I would say that. This book, I thought, had a lot of tenderness. I mean, yes, it had the spice, but the emotional connection and Riley's journey to trust and just finding her place, I feel like that's what made it unforgettable.
Yeah. Plus, the side characters had us like rooting for spin-off books. The found family vibes were super strong as well in that book.
Yeah, I feel like we gave this one a solid 4 for like emotional impact and the spice. I feel like the spice was a 2 if you're counting scenes, but a 3 if you include that slow burn tension that Jen craves.
Typically, I don't know if you'll agree with this, but typically Omegaverses are a higher spice level than the majority of other genres. Is that kind of safe to say?
Well,
in general,
I think it has to be because you have more things happening in the bedroom, right?
More people, right?
There's more. Oh my gosh. I feel like if we could document us having conversations while reading in Omegaverse and being like, Jen,
our Voxer, can you imagine if our Voxer was like,
how did they get in this position? Like, I don't get it. Where's this leg? His face is where, but his body's there. How is his body there? Like, his eyes must be touching this part on this guy's body. Like,
yeah, we do try to investigate what's the positions that they're in because there's so many bodies.
I feel like we need to get those wooden sculpting dolls,
of little people to like reenact
to like
the
just
silhouette
have like a
people.
collection and be like, what is happening here? Oh,
okay.
Oh my gosh.
Book number 2, Most Valuable Pack by Ari Wright. Ari Wright is a favorite author of ours, I would say, especially
Yeah.
for Omegaverses. And this one was a little bit lighter and more rom-com-y ish. Still, it was Omegaverse, but without the heavy and the dark inks.
Yeah. We loved how this one leaned more into that fun, flirty side of Pack Life. Remember, it's like that rom-commy. The actress that I keep thinking about is like, besides Reese Witherspoon, because I want to say somebody else, is like Kate Hudson. I feel like
Oh, yes.
I feel like because this one was like very light, fun, flirty side of Pack Life. It still had the Omega and Alpha dynamics, but I thought it was quite hilarious.
Yeah, sometimes you kind of need an Omegaverse palette cleanser, and this one hit that sweet spot. Spice was a solid 3, and emotional connection was really satisfying, like going through the book.
Yeah, and so this one is actually part of a series, and there's 4, I want to say, in this series. I loved every single one of them. So if you want to try a Megaverse without diving into that trauma pool, Most Valuable Pack by Ari Wright is a great series to jump into as your gateway drug.
Yeah, no, for sure. I totally agree with that. Ari Wright, in general, writes so kind of playful and snarky, and her writing is just it's really good. And if you typically read rom-com books, then this would be the type of books to get into for those
Definitely.
Omegaverses.
Yes.
So we're going to give our listeners a few things to know before diving into the Omegaverse, especially if it's new to them.
Yeah. I mean, I think number 1 is always check the trigger warnings.
I
Some
think we say that every episode.
no, but we don't learn. We don't learn. And I feel like some of Megaverse books get really dark, like
Mhm.
really dark. And you need to know what you're walking into. I will say that if you see a word that you're not familiar with, maybe not use your computer to Google it, because I didn't know what some things were, and I Googled it, and I was like, holy crap, that's not on my computer. Images popped up.
Just do not get in trouble legally and you'll be
No,
good.
just like call a friend and be like, do you know what this is? Like, don't Google. Don't Google
Or Google in an
something.
incognito browser
Oh,
that
learn,
doesn't track you at all.
learn from me.
Yeah, for sure. Number 2, heats and rets are a thing. They're biological urges that play into power dynamics and usually lead to very spicy scenes. So why don't you explain to us heats and rets?
Oh, thanks for that. Because you can't see it, but Jen does not want to say what it is. So she just tossed the ball in my court. That was so rude.
As I'm beat red.
So rude. I would say that a heat in an Omegaverse is when the Omega, which could be male and female, majority of the time it's a female, their bodies are very interested in sex. Let's just say that. We're not going to make it more scientific. We're just saying that. Like, they are craving intimacy with an alpha, particularly.
Or multiple people.
Yeah, if you're gonna read this, you might as well just hear it. But like an alpha's knot. If you want to know what knot is, Jen will
Google.
happily share with you. But so they are, and it can last, like sometimes they go into preheat where they
The
horny,
fever.
right? They're just horny.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah.
they get really hot to touch. They have a fever. They kind of get this haze. They go into this daze, and they're just like, "Oh my gosh, I need sex from an alpha now." And sometimes it can last a day. Sometimes it can last 5 days, and that's why there's kind of like this pack. So there's multiple people helping that Omega go through this heat. Most books, it says it happens like once or twice a year. And it's like usually the
Yeah.
only time that an Omega, if they're female, can get pregnant. So
And ruts are
any hint?
when the
You feel
or
comfortable
ruts
saying this?
are when, no. And ruts are when the alphas get a smell for somebody, like a scent match or a smell, or someone's in heat, and they kind of see red and cannot control,
They're primal urges.
for the most part, their primal urges, like an animal comes out, which goes very well with
Say
heats.
what? can't even say it. It's so
We're
funny.
doing hand signs.
Nobody can see your hand gestures, Jen, but me.
They will in a couple weeks when
Oh
we
my
start
gosh.
filming the videos.
This is hilarious on so many levels. Okay. So, number 3, I would say just because omegas are biologically submissive doesn't mean they don't have agency, right? I think some of the best stories have fierce omegas who take their power back. I mean, obviously, I love a badass heroine like nobody's
Oh,
business.
we
So,
both do. That's our
exactly.
favorite books to read. Number 4, expect big feelings. I feel like I might be an Omegaverse person because Omegaverse stories at their core are often about safety, belonging, and healing. So you will probably cry, but you will definitely clutch your pearls. That much I can say.
Yes, in the best way. Yes. I don't think I've ever cried with with a book. What's
Well, I mean, I cried on the Omegaverse that was super dark
you
when they
cried?
were kidnapped
Oh
and
yeah.
they were at the auction. Yeah, I was like, it was, yeah, I cried. Hmm.
I think it was more
Yep.
angry. Like not at
Well,
the
I mean,
altar
but
ending.
I angry cry. When I'm angry, sometimes I cry, which makes me even madder because I didn't want to cry. So
I know.
it is what it is.
I'm sitting here, I'm like, have I ever cried in a book? I don't know. Anyway, keep going.
Liar. You have cried in a book.
I don't
Really? For real? No,
I'm being
seriously.
serious. Like I've cried with movies, but
Cry
not in a
with
book.
multiple books because it's a movie in my head.
I think I don't know. Okay. Well, when you cry, you need to tell me. Maybe we
I
should put
will
spirit
boxer
marks.
you. I cried in chapter 5, the second sentence. No, I'll let you know.
I mean, I feel like maybe we need to have like a tearjerker like rating on our theme because I never cry.
I cried because they were taken from their homes. Like I just was picturing my daughters and it just
Oh,
got
it
to
was
me.
so you know what
Yeah.
happens whenever I read and it's uncomfortable for me? My hands tingle. I don't know what that means.
We
It's
talked
not
about
at
this
all.
before.
What
We
is
talked
wrong with
about this
me?
before, and I said, no, when I get like nervous, I get like sweat from
Yeah,
head
you
to
get
toe.
sweats.
I don't get hand tingles. And you go, I like hand tingles. I like hand tingles better of all things.
You're welcome. And now you cry at my hand tingles. I'll stick with my hand tingles. Whenever I get nervous or whenever it's like emotionally intense and I'm feeling uncomfortable, my hand tingles. Somebody else
Okay,
has to have hand tingles. I'm sorry.
so I'm wrapping things up for us. So, if you are still wondering if an Omegaverse is for you, let us just say if you like emotional depth, if you like protective men in books, if you like strong found family dynamics, and if you like primal tension or sexual tension, these are the books for you.
Yes, just like we said, check your trigger warnings, check to make sure that you're comfortable going in. But we'll keep covering more Omegaverse stories on this podcast. So stay tuned. And if you got a rec we should read, hit us up in the comments or on Instagram.
And if you haven't yet, check out our amazing book boyfriend quiz that Amber made that I still love. And it's free and it will be in the show notes.
Yeah, you might just land yourself a growly alpha who wants to mark your soul. Until then,
Mm.
stay morally gray, babes.